人類が増えすぎた人口を宇宙に移民するようになってすでに半世紀。宇宙世紀0079、地球から最も遠い宇宙都市サイド3はジオン公国を名乗る地球連邦政府に独立戦争を挑んできた。開戦当初の1ヶ月で総人口の半数が死に、人々は自らの行為に恐怖した。戦争が膠着状態に入って8ヶ月余りが過ぎた。一機のブルースーツの一人の少年が運命的な出会いを果たした。君は生き延びることができるか。
Hey, what's up everybody? Justin here to review you a true Dreamcast classic, Mobile Suit Gundam Federation vs. Zeon. Or more specifically, not just this one, but Federation vs. Zeon Deluxe as well. While this series is presently under Bandai Namco, the original games were originally made by Capcom back in its 2001 debut. And when I actually first came to Japan in 2001, I first played this games in arcades, I think in Kabukicho, against some businessmen wearing suits and smoking cigarettes, which was allowed back then. And if you've seen Nana, which does take place in 2001, you'll see how common smoking in Japan was. But despite being a first timer to that game, I managed to beat some of these guys because I picked it up rather quickly. And later in 2001, it actually got its first console release on the PS2, and though I'm reviewing the Dreamcast version didn't come out until April 2002, a month after my study abroad concluded. And I didn't get this version until just a few years ago, though I owned the PS2 version for the longest time. And the development of this game has a very unique history, and Yoshiki Okamoto, who worked at Capcom at the time, retells the story in a YouTube video how it almost never came to be due to trademark infringement disputes. So I'll also have the link to that video in my show notes, so check that out as well.
For the Dreamcast release, it has two separate discs. You have the regular Federation vs. Zeon and Federation vs. Zeon Deluxe. So what's the difference, you might ask? Federation vs. Zeon is based on the first arcade release and is limited to fighting on a ground surface. And considering how a chunk of Gundam always takes place in space, it felt weird to not have space or air battles, which is what Deluxe serves as that, and that version came out in arcades in September of 2001, so it allows more movement to add more strategy, fun, and speed. This game specifically features the mobile suits, characters, and stages from the first Gundam series. In Deluxe, you can choose a mobile suit for ground fighting and another mobile suit for space fighting. On the Federation side, you naturally have the Gundam, the gun cannon, the gun tank, the GM, and the Gundams and GMs from 08th MS Team, and the ball. But in the case of the Gundam and GMs from 08th MS Team, they can only be used in ground battles, while the ball can only be used in space battles. But Zeon has a whole lot more than just the Federation. They feature the previous model Zaku, the generic Zaku, Char's custom Zaku, the Goof, the Zigok, Char's custom Zigok, the Zog, the Zok, the Gyan, the Dome, Ricto, the Gelgug, Char's custom Gelgug, the Zeong, and so on. And of course, in the case of the Zigog, the Zog, and Zok, they're limited to ground battles, while the Zeong can only be used in space. There are instances where you will choose different weapons for your mobile suit. Like with the Gundam, you can choose the beam rifle, the cannon, or the hammer. But for close-range combat, you can use beam sabers and Heathawks. For playable characters, for the Feddies, you've got Amuro, Sayla, Hayato, Kai, Ryu, and Slager. And for the Zeeks, you gotta have Char, Rambo Ral, Garma, Makuve, Gaia, Mash Ortega, Lala, and Dozul. And what's also neat is if you enter your name as Kasubaru, which is Char's real name, you'll actually get Char. And what's also neat is that all the seiyus from the anime are back to resume their roles for this game as well.
サイド7内部に侵入。敵モビルスーツ部隊を撃破してください。 進路クリア、発進どうぞ。
見せてもらおうか。連邦軍のモビルスーツの性能とやらを。見せてもらおうか。連邦軍のモビルスーツの性能とやらを。
サイドセブン内部に敵部隊が侵入しました。敵モビルスーツ部隊を撃退してください。慌てないでね。アムロならやれるわ。ガンダム発進です。
了解。
アムロ頑張ってね。
アムロ行きます。
For stages, you've got Site 7, Jabro, Solomon, and Abaoku, and many more. And they're well represented, and you fight within the confines of that stage. The ground battles are fun and challenging, but for space battles, you get a true authentic Gundam 3D experience. In space, those battles really test how well you know range and angles, while the ground battles are naturally, as Char would put it, being held back by gravity. It's pretty much a team battle action melee game where you win until the loser's life bar is depleted. Depending on the mobile suit you use, it can determine how powerful your life bar can be. If you're using, let's say, a generic Zaku or a GM, you can be shot down and it won't cause any significant damage to the life bar, and you can keep going a little longer. But they won't really deliver that much damage either. But if you're, let's say, the Gundam or the Zeon, if you get shot down, it'll take out a chunk of your life bar. Considering the layout of the Dreamcast controller, I found it to be a little overwhelming at first because there's so much to do. Like B is to lock on target, X is to shoot your main weapon, Y is to use your close range weapon, A is to boost up, R triggers to boost, etc. But playing on an arcade controller, it felt more comfortable for me. I'm not recommending one or the other, and I know people have their preferences with controllers for certain games because it takes less thinking for me to play while playing with a DC controller. And when I do that, I always have to remind myself, okay, which button is which due to its layout. So that's just me. But when playing the arcade mode, you can either enter your name or the name of a Gundam character and play as that character to make things more fun. The biggest criticism I have for the Dreamcast version is that it's one player only, while its PS2 counterpart, which only came out 4 months prior to the Dreamcast release, is 2 players. However, the only way to play it multiplayer is to play it online, and I've heard that some people have managed to bring back some of those servers online as recently as 2020. I would like to try it out myself, but my broadband connector for my Dreamcast is back home at my parents' house in Arizona. For Japanese comprehension, the menus are in Japanese, but you only have 4 options anyway, so just pick the top one just to play. The dialogue is also in Japanese, and if you've watched the anime series or movie trilogy in Japanese enough times with subtitles, then you already have an idea of what they're saying anyway. For prices, you're better off with the PlayStation 2 version because I've seen copies of this game in 110 yen bargain bins in Japan. But if you're looking for the Dreamcast version, expect to pay a little less than 7,000 yen. However, during the pandemic, I bought my Dreamcast copy for 900 yen at a hard-off in Yokohama, more specifically, one that's about a less than 30-minute walk from Seiya Station on the Sotetsu line. But considering the original arcade version was made on Naomi hardware, which is essentially Dreamcast arcade hardware, then the Dreamcast version is still the best true to the arcade experience. And considering Dreamcast having VGA support, if you play this on VGA, it's going to look amazing. But if you gotta settle for the PS2, then you have my understanding. Until then, Justin, ikimasu!